Is there something in the water of the South Bay that drives innovation? Here's a short story of a used aircraft engineer who went on to popularize a unique category of knife, as well as becoming an author and an artist, with his work featured and exhibited at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Join us as we explore the world of Ernest Emerson on PCZ TV. PCZ TV. Today's episode, Novel Knives in the South Bay. While not the first person to create a tactical folding knife, it was really Emerson who popularized the genre. But we're getting too far ahead. Let's jump into the Wayback Machine and see the history. Born in Wisconsin, Emerson started training in the martial arts at 16. After graduation from college, he moved to the South Bay to continue his martial arts training, studying Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do under his student Dan Inosanto. Note that Dan's original studio location was in Torrance. And Emerson also studied Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the Gracie Academy, whose original and current location was in Torrance. The South Bay was really the epicenter of martial arts during this time frame. And during this time frame, Emerson worked at used aircraft in El Segundo. It may have been his aerospace experience that gave him greater exposure to the various materials he would later choose to construct his knives from. But he started making knives in his garage out of necessity. In 1978, he needed a balisong knife for his study of Filipino martial arts. Emerson decided he would build one. He milled and drilled the handles from aluminum stock. The knife blade was made from a simple steel blank that he hand-cut with a hacksaw, shaped with files, and heat-treated at his dining room table with a butane torch. His instructors and fellow students were impressed and asked him to make knives for them also, and thus began the legacy. Emerson was exposed to Michael Walker and his handmade folding knives and was so impressed that he shifted his focus from fixed blades to folders. Emerson contacted Walker and obtained his permission to use the Walker liner lock mechanism on his own knives. Walker was a huge influence on Emerson and sent him on the path towards taking the knife business seriously. First out of the gate was the Viper. At the time, most popular folders out there weren't heavy-duty working knives. Emerson's stated goal was to create a durable, weather-resistant product built as a fighting knife. In 1986, Emerson's business changed. Phil Hartsfield was making a chisel ground edge, and Emerson asked him permission to incorporate it into his own folding knives, showing how respect and connections are important in life. This karma, if you will soon come back to reflect on Emerson. So when Navy SEALs from a West Coast team who had been using personally purchased custom fixed blade knives made by Phil asked Phil to make them a folding knife, he told them he didn't make folding knives, but he knew someone who does, and he referred them to Emerson. Emerson reacted to the SEAL requirements and developed the sixth model in his Viper series, which was eventually named the CQC-6. Ownership of a CQC-6 soon became something of a status symbol among members of various elite military units, including Navy SEALs, Army Special Forces, German GSG-9, and the British SAS. Because of this connection to the special warfare community, Emerson changed the name of his custom knife line to Spec War Knives, and in 1990 this new designation appearing in the logo of his custom blades. The next pivotal moment for Emerson came with the development of the iconic CQC-7. CQC, or Close Quarters Combat Model 7, was the model that really became the de facto standard for most special operations groups, as well as police and first responders. This was the knife that everyone who was anyone had to have, and collectors and knife fans took notice also. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Back then, the Navy needed the knives in greater numbers than Emerson could produce. So it did a co-op with a large established brand that could produce the knife in the volume needed. The question was, what design? Emerson offered up the CQC7. And this was the birth of the most iconic tactical knife design of all time. It also became the biggest selling tactical folder in the world. Now, over the years, the CQC7 has undergone multiple iterations with various blade shapes, handle materials, enhancements, etc. ad nauseum, but fundamentally, it was designed as a rugged fighting knife, and it has influenced the design of just about every other folding knife that followed. The popularity of his knives within all of the alphabet organizations and knife enthusiasts led to its inclusion in popular culture. The first major property which called out an Emerson knife specifically was Richard Marchenko's Rogue Warrior in 1992. This rocketed Emerson knives into the wider public consciousness and also led to him becoming a consultant in many Hollywood productions. But back to the early 90s. Emerson was, essentially, still a business run out of a garage with a small staff. So he partnered with existing companies to mass produce his products. Let's talk Timberline in 1993 and the Emerson Neely Spec War knife, which would go on to win the Blade magazine's 1995 American-Made Knife of the Year award and was displayed as an exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum of Modern Art in New York City. A co-op with Benchmade happened in 1995, which allowed the mass production of the CQC7 that I mentioned earlier. The partnership lasted from 1995 until 1998. It was obvious that demand for Emerson's product exceeded his production capability, so in 1997 he founded Emerson Knives Incorporated. This was a facility that could produce his product in greater volume. Emerson himself said that there was some legal wrangling involved, but eventually he regained the design rights to his knives in late 1998 and went in production of the Emerson CQC7. The first ones hit the ground in 1999, and they instantly became a best-selling design, which still continues to this day. The late 90s was a fury of innovation and ideas for Emerson. The next major milestone was the Wave patent in 1998, or more correctly, the Emerson Wave Shape feature, which is an innovative design that allows quick blade deployment. Now, per knifeinformer.com, the Wave feature came about as a happy little accident. While designing a knife for a group of combat fighting course instructors, they requested to have a blade catch, a protrusion on top of the blade that prevents the opponent's blade from sliding up and onto the handle and to protect your hand. As it turned out, having a blade catch that's angled away from the blade serves a double purpose. It also catches the corner of your pocket as you pull it out, opening the blade into the fully locked position by the time the knife clears your pocket. This makes knives with the Wave the fastest opening folding knives in the world. The Wave shape feature is now officially required on all knives supplied to military combat units, military search and rescue units, and law enforcement agencies. And the first new design of Emerson to feature the Wave shape feature was 1999's Commander. This is the second iconic design from Emerson. One of Emerson's early production models from the new facility, the Commander, is a large recurve folding knife based on a special custom design, the ES-1M, that he had made for a West Coast Navy SEAL team. The Commander won Blade magazine's overall Knife of the Year award in 1999. 1999 also saw the development of the Navy's Snark. After a disastrous helicopter crash, when a CH-46 helicopter from Marine Squadron 166 crashed off the coast of California and resulted in the deaths of 6 Marines and 1 sailor, the U.S. Navy performed an assessment of their equipment and decided that they needed a new search and rescue knife. The Navy went to Emerson. He designed and fabricated a working prototype within 24 hours. They found that it met their needs, and the model was dubbed the SARK, the Search and Rescue Knife. In 2005, the Navy changed the requirements on the SARK to incorporate a gut hook on the back of the blade for use as a line cutter. Emerson, of course, made the change, and this model is only available to the U.S. Navy with the revised designation of NSAR, the Navy Search and Rescue Knife. And now we pivot to pigs in space. Hey, by the way, pigs aren't the only things to go into space. In 1999, NASA contracted Emerson to build a knife for use on the Space Shuttle missions and the International Space Station. Now, rather than to design a new model from scratch, NASA chose an existing model which already met their specifications with one added design requirement. The model is a folding version of the spec war knife that Emerson had designed for Timberline, with the addition of a gut hook cut into the tanto point of the blade. The gut hook, in this case, can also help the astronauts open their freeze-dried food packages, or so they say. Again, the knife is not available for purchase outside NASA. Pity, as collectors would love it. And by the way, I'm not familiar with any other folding knife that was sent into space. If you know, put it in the comments below. Well, Emerson is, if nothing else, energetic. In 2002, he worked with Gerber and created the Gerber-Emerson Alliance. Also in 2002, he worked with Surefire on a new knife designed in conjunction with one of their products called the CQC-8. And in 2005, made the CQC-T in conjunction with the American Tomahawk Company. Now, in a fascinating line extension, he launched the Emerson electric guitar in 2007 and a clothing line in 2008. Another external partnership in 2009, this time with famed 1911 manufacturer Les Baer and the CQC-45. And another partnership with Spikes Tactical with the CQC-22, and another co-op project to produce an automatic version of the CQC-7 with ProTech knives. Honestly, the man has incredible energy. I'm tired just talking about all his activities. Is it any wonder he's a global legend, much less a South Bay phenomena? Well, there's little wonder that he was inducted into the Black Belt Hall of Fame in 2014, joining many other South Bay legends, which we'll cover in future videos. In 2013, a non-custom factory-made Emerson CQC-7 knife carried by the Navy SEAL who served as a point man on the mission to kill or capture Osama bin Laden was auctioned off for charity, netting over $35,000. This knife was carried by Mark Owen, the pseudonym for the former SEAL Team 6 member who took part in the raid that led to the killing of Osama bin Laden. Owen published a book about the raid, No Easy Day. Now, he was a guest speaker at an event I attended. Nice guy. But I should note that since publication, his identity has been revealed, and I also understand that there's controversy around his book publication. But I'm not here to judge one way or another. Make your own decision. Emerson hasn't rested on his laurels. He hasn't rested at all. He has a line of coffee and a line of whiskey. You have got to love this man's energy. Today, Emerson's factory shares space with Hoist Gracie, down a small industrial street in Harbor City, California. Now, I was fortunate enough to train with the Gracies, and I also trained with Emerson and the GSGI team back in the day. To say they have amazing talent is an understatement. Now, my Emersons have been my daily companion for the last quarter century in my journeys throughout the world. As the old saying goes, I don't leave home without them. Now a final note. Emerson has had some of the best knife photography in the business. The man knows what great photography is all about. I've borrowed freely from his website, but I've also included credits on the images that I've found elsewhere on the web. So that's the story. And all this happened in a small little corner of LA we call the South Bay. If you've been watching, I thank you. Bye!